Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Paris and if it's a city that is friendly towards students. So I've been living in Paris for about a year now, but I've been interning throughout my time in Paris, meaning that I have a monthly salary that helps me with all of my expenses. So obviously Paris, like every other big city in the world, is expensive. I spend 50% on my income on rent, which is a lot, and the second biggest expense on my list is the food. So let's talk about rent. So yes, rent in Paris can be quite a burden. It is extremely high and apartment hunting is extremely difficult because the demand for accommodation in Paris is so high. If you want to try to save as much as money as possible on this expense, you could consider student residences that are obviously catered towards students, so the price is a lot cheaper compared to finding an apartment by yourself. Also, if you guys are interested, I made this video showing my apartment in Paris, so don't hesitate to check it out. I know a lot of students will also stay in the suburbs of Paris just because rent is a whole lot cheaper, or you can find what's called a chambre de bonne, basically what used to be the rooms for the servants in a typical Parisian apartment. These rooms are really small. They go from like 9 to 10, 11 meters square, and it's very common to have to share the toilet with other people living on that floor. So that could be quite uncomfortable, but on the bright side, you get to live inside of Paris with a rent that is more manageable than getting like a two-piece apartment or a studio. When I was here for the first 6 months, I knew it was only going to be temporary. And on top of that, like, I feel it just adds on to the charm of living in Paris. So romanticize it if it makes you feel better about living in a small place. By the way guys, if you could drop a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would mean the world to me, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. So we've established that rent is expensive. Now, is it still student friendly? In France, there is this social aid for students which helps you pay a certain percentage of your rent. But the downside to applying to the CAF is, well, you have to deal with the French administration, and that can be very stressful. Once again, it's a lot of back and forth, it's a lot of documents that you have to submit, so it can be quite annoying to go through the entire process, but the payoff in the end is so worth it. So I would definitely encourage that you apply for it because it takes off a huge burden from the rent. Now moving on to the public transportation system. So in Paris, you have the underground, which is called the metro, buses and trams. As a student, if you're going to be living here for one entire year, you can get the annual Navigo pass, which is called the Imagine Air, which will cost you 350 euros for the entire year. I know some students who rely on bicycles and do not have a Navigo pass, especially if they live like near campus. But personally, just having that annual Navigo pass is so much more hassle-free, especially when you're moving around in Paris. You don't even have to think about it because you know that you can get through public transport with your card all year round. Besides public transportation, you also have a carte jeune available for students and people below the age of 26, if I'm not mistaken. And if you intend to travel around France often, then it's a really good deal because you get like 30 to 50% off on tickets. Now let's talk about food, which is my second biggest expense in Paris and something that I have so much of trouble controlling till this day because I'm a huge foodie, and the fact that Paris has a great food scene does not help my case at all. So shopping for food can be expensive, and that is also because you can't really find like big supermarkets in Paris, but there are some of these supermarkets that offer student discounts. For example, at Auchan or at Carrefour, you can get 10% off if you register with your student card. It might seem like a little bit, but when you accumulate like the 10% every single time, in about a month or so, you'd be able to do your groceries without having to pay with all the money that you have accumulated. Now moving on to activities that you can do in Paris. For example, art museums and exhibitions are free for students or for people under the age of 26. So for example, you would be able to go to the Louvre and check out the Mona Lisa for free. And having a free pass to these museums is something that I'm extremely grateful for because it has definitely allowed me to explore the world of art, something that I was never really exposed to and something that I did not really have a particular appreciation for. Besides museums and art exhibitions, you also have tons of free spaces in Paris outdoors. You have really pretty gardens, parks, libraries. So all of these free spaces are great alternatives when you want to hang out with your friends without having to spend any money. Now, as a student, you could also opt for student jobs. I also know some friends who take care of children in a family in exchange for a room in the apartment. If you like kids, then this is an amazing deal because you just save like so much of money on rent, and since rent is literally half or the most of your expenses, like it's a win-win situation. You could also check out student jobs at your university. I know that some universities offer jobs, for example, as a librarian, as a tutor. In my university, I signed up to be part of the communication team. I created a lot of content for the social media page. I only signed up for a student job when I entered engineering school, so like 2 years ago. Just having that extra $100-200 per month helps so much. So in conclusion, Paris is expensive as a student city. Especially if you have a heavy cost, then you won't really be able to maximize all that the city has to offer. I have been enjoying and I'm still enjoying my experience in Paris because I'm an intern, meaning that I have time after working hours and during weekends to spend time in the city and to carry out some activities, whereas I don't think that I would have the same opinion had I been here for like an academic semester as an engineering student. So that's something to take into consideration if you're going to put in that much of money to come and study in Paris. So if you're up for it and if you're up for that adventure, then I would say definitely give it a shot and have a taste of what it's like to live in Paris. That's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did find it helpful, please drop a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because that would mean so much to me. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video. Ciao!